Thank you, Charlotte, for that excellent talk. You managed to cover so much then in 15 minutes, and your findings actually lead us on nicely to my talk, where I'll share the development of a digital acceptance-based intervention to help prevent weight gain for those living with obesity during lockdown. So I will just share my screen. Okay, so you should be able to see the slides. So yeah, I'm Becky. I'm a postdoc researcher at the University of Cambridge, part of the MRC Epidemiology Group. And today I'll be talking to you about our swim program and how our team, headed by Amy Ahern, developed this program and how we adapted it then to support people with obesity during the pandemic. And this program is underpinned by acceptance and commitment therapy, which is what we call a third wave cognitive behavioural therapy. So I'll briefly talk to you about third wave CBT and why that might be useful as a treatment for obesity. So as we know, standard behavioural weight management programs, so your typical community programs, are usually effective for many people in the short term, but the long-term effectiveness of these interventions really depends on the maintenance of this weight loss over time. And there's now a growing body of research that suggests that third wave cognitive behavioural therapies can have better short-term and long-term outcomes for weight management compared to these standard behavioural treatment programs. So what do we mean by third wave cognitive behavioural therapy? Well, behavioural and cognitive therapies can be organised into different perspectives based on their dominant assumptions and methods, particularly in relation to how they treat private events like thoughts and feelings. So the first era or wave of behaviour therapy largely ignored the role of cognition in favour of a focus on direct modification of behaviour. And behaviour therapy was strongly grounded in basic principles of learning and conditioning, such as positive and negative reinforcement. So a second wave of cognitive behavioural therapy then evolved by including the role of cognition. And this is what we've come to know as traditional CBT. And CBT is based on the principle that behaviour and emotions are a result of faulty information processing and dysfunctional beliefs. So the focus in CBT is to identify and change these faulty thoughts and beliefs in order to change behaviour. So most recently, a third wave of cognitive behavioural therapy has evolved from traditional CBT, and it suggests that this process of trying to control our thoughts and feelings actually causes tension and distress for many people. So rather than trying to actively change difficult thoughts and feelings, like in traditional CBT, third wave CBT aims to help people to instead to accept these thoughts and feelings, to sit with them, to accept them for what they are, and instead change their behavioural response to them. So third wave CBT effectively aims to change a person's relationship to their thoughts and feelings rather than trying to directly change the thoughts and feelings themselves. So I hope that makes sense. And third wave CBT encompasses a number of different therapies, which you may have heard of. So ACT, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, DBT, and compassion-focused therapy. And while there are differences between these, they share a common focus on some concepts, including acceptance, mindfulness, psychological flexibility, and self-compassion. So I'll talk through these concepts briefly. So when we talk about acceptance, we don't mean just giving up. Instead, it's an active willingness to experience some of the difficult thoughts and feelings that we might have, rather than trying to push them away or control them. There are many factors that we're unable to control in relation to weight management, like our biology or physical and social environments. We also can't control our cravings for food or the desire to be sedentary, but we can control how we respond to them. So acceptance helps us to learn to distance ourselves from unhelpful thoughts and feelings, which in turn will help us to change our behavioural responses to them. Mindfulness, as we are probably a bit more familiar with, is more about moment-to-moment awareness. And so practice in mindfulness can help people to be more aware of their common triggers to overeat. It can also help people to slow down and become aware of the automatic influences of internal and external cues on eating behaviour, such as habits or the environment. And by slowing down, mindfulness helps us to recognise what we call choice points. So decisions that we make in everyday life, where one choice might take us towards our weight management goals, whereas the other will take us away from them. Psychological flexibility, then, is this overall ability to respond in a flexible way to psychological events and these decisions that we're faced with in everyday life. It's the ability to change our behaviour so that it is more in line with our values, so what is important to us. And it's being willing to make the choices that break unhelpful patterns of behaviour and take us towards our goals, even if these choices are less pleasurable or if it brings us some discomfort. Fostering a compassionate attitude towards ourselves can also help to diffuse the self-critical thoughts that we have in relation to weight management. So self-compassion can help to reduce self-blame and feelings of shame, which in turn can prevent feelings of discouragement and failure following any minor lapses, which of course are a very common and normal part of weight management. So what is the evidence for third wave CBT? While we know it can be effective for mental health issues, since 2008, a growing body of research has explored third wave CBT as a treatment for weight management. And in March this year, the most recent and comprehensive systematic review of third wave CBT for weight management was published. This was led by our colleagues Emma Lawler and Nazrul Islam. And they found moderate quality evidence that third wave CBT was more effective than the standard behavioural treatment programs at 12 months. And they found high quality evidence that it was more effective at 24 months, with around a 1.4 kilograms difference at this point. And when comparing the different types of third wave CBT against one another, so going back to ACT, DBT, compassion focused therapy, mindfulness-based cognitive behavioural therapy, they found that acceptance and commitment therapy actually had the most consistent evidence of effectiveness for weight management and had evidence for up to 3 years. The review also looked at the effects of third wave CBT on eating behaviour and psychological outcomes, which is important because these are the proposed mechanisms through which third wave CBT works. And the results showed that following third wave CBT, psychological outcomes did improve, as well as quality of life, mindfulness, and psychological flexibility. And helpful eating behaviours and related factors like binge eating and hunger decreased, while helpful behaviours like dietary restraint and mindful eating increased. So there's promising evidence for the use of third wave CBT in weight management, and in particular for ACT. However, ACT is usually delivered face-to-face by a psychologist, which potentially means a costly intervention. And there's also a lack of psychologists who are trained in weight management to deliver this type of program. So going back to the problem of maintenance of weight loss in the long term following a standard behavioural program, the original purpose of our SWIM program was to develop an ACT-based intervention to help people who had successfully lost weight in a standard behavioural program in the community, for example, to then maintain their weight loss after completion. And we needed a program that could be delivered at scale and was cost effective. So we aim to use digital technology and non-specialist coaches to support its delivery. So we use several frameworks for the development of complex interventions in healthcare to develop our program, including the MRC framework, the intervention mapping protocol, and the person-based approach for complex health interventions, which you can see in the diagram here. And these frameworks provided us with a very systematic approach to identify the evidence base and then to develop an effective intervention which was based on the context, needs and experiences of our target users. So guided by these frameworks, we conducted 2 phases of development work. So phase 1, you can see that we synthesised existing literature on weight loss maintenance. We conducted the systematic review on third wave CBT. We conducted qualitative interviews on people's experiences of weight loss maintenance. And we also estimated a justifiable cost for this type of intervention. And this first phase of work informed the second phase, which included developing the guiding principles of the intervention, so its key objectives and the design elements that would achieve these objectives, and identify its hypothesized mechanisms of action, which is illustrated with a logic model. So once we had designed an initial prototype of the intervention, we then conducted several iterative rounds of user testing with target user representatives, including using Think Aloud protocols. We ended up with a website that includes 14 psychoeducational sessions, which are based on the important determinants of weight loss maintenance, as well as the core concepts of ACT. And in the right-hand column, you can see that participants are supported through the program with 4 telephone calls from a trained but non-specialist coach. And the role of the coach here is to encourage adherence and troubleshoot rather than providing specific advice, as the aim of the program is to help people to support themselves to maintain their weight loss over the long term. So this is a screenshot of the SWIM website, and you can see the first couple of sessions running down the center of the page. And each session is structured in the same way and includes reflective exercises, a weight tracker, education on a particular topic, further exercises, and then a behavioural experiment to do throughout the week. And all of the core exercises and strategies from each session are stored at the top in the Swim Aids tab, which effectively acts as a toolbox of strategies for weight management as participants progress through the programme. And this is a screenshot of what a session looks like. So participants scroll through each page to read the information and complete the exercises. And we work with the graphic designer to create over 30 images, which we've used to illustrate the metaphors that are used commonly to explain the key concepts of ACT. And we also developed some really lovely short animations for some of the more complex metaphors. And just as we were about to recruit participants for our swim study, of course, the COVID crisis brought things to a halt. And the original study was looking at the effect of swim, the program on weight loss maintenance. And so, of course, we were going to recruit from weight management programs in the community. Unfortunately, COVID meant the closure of these services and programs, so our original swim study was put on hold. But at the same time, we started receiving calls from obesity organisations and support groups for resources to support people with obesity who were reporting, as Charlotte identified earlier, increased psychological distress, comfort eating and sedentary behaviour due to the disruption of their regular weight management services and general routines. So given that we'd already designed an ACT-based program to support weight management, and with sessions targeting things like stress management, emotional eating and urges and cravings that were exacerbated by lockdown, it made sense for us to adapt our swim program so that it could be used to support people with obesity during lockdown and try and prevent weight gain and maintain or improve mental health. And so we adapted the sessions to include specific guidance on how to achieve a healthy diet and be physically active during lockdown. And we managed to combine some sessions so that we condensed it to a 12-week program. Because we couldn't recruit a specific coach, we reduced the coach contact to 1 telephone call and 1 email contact. And we trained up members of our team to deliver this support. And we call this program Swim COVID or Swim C, and it was reviewed by target user representatives. We designed a fully powered RCT to evaluate Swim C and to see if it reduced weight gain over 4 months, compared to standard advice that was given to people with obesity from the European Association for the Study of Obesity. Secondary objectives included evaluated changes in eating behaviour, physical activity and psychological well-being, the cost effectiveness of the programme, the experiences of users, and identifying any potential causal mechanisms responsible for the effects on outcomes. So you can see here that we recruited adults with a BMI of 25 or over, and we randomized 180 to the swim program and 180 to the control group, who were assigned to a waitlist control group and received an information leaflet. As the whole study was delivered and is being managed online, we decided to use self-reported weight for our main outcome, and other outcomes were measured using validated questionnaires. So in terms of psychological outcomes, we were measuring depression, anxiety and stress, emotional eating, as well as health-related quality of life and general well-being. We'll also evaluate the feasibility and acceptability of the intervention in the study using website usage data, recording all data relating to recruitment, and we'll conduct qualitative interviews to explore participants' experiences. So the current progress we've made, so we've actually reached our recruitment target a couple of weeks ago, and we've randomized 388 participants. 145 of which have actually progressed through to session 4, meaning they've received a call from their coach. And so far, the coaches have largely received positive feedback, particularly in relation to the novel ACT-based content, which participants typically haven't come across in their standard behavioural programs. And so we're expecting now to conduct our 4-month follow-up measurements in October, and we hope to share the findings of this study with you early next year. A huge thank you to our dream team who've worked tirelessly throughout lockdown to deliver the programme and set up the necessary systems. It's been a massive team effort, and thank you to our funders, NIHR, EASO, and to ECHO and Obesity UK for reviewing the programme and helping with recruitment. Thank you for listening. I'm very happy to chat further with you by email if you have any questions.